I'm here with Steve Sobel. Did I say your name correct, Steve?
You did correct, yes.
Awesome. What exactly do you do for Databricks?
Well, awesome to be here. I lead our startup and venture programs at Databricks. So essentially what I'm responsible for is how do we work with early stage companies? How do we work with founders? How do we work with VCs to make sure that we are supporting the startup ecosystem? And we support the startup ecosystem in a few different ways. Number one, we actually have a program where we offer Databricks credits to venture-backed startups that are beginning their usage of Databricks. We've had a few hundred companies that have gone through this program over the last year and a half. It's been a great way for, early stage companies to, kind of get familiar with the platform, start building out their use cases, and ultimately, hopefully become their platform of choice as they're either building their product or if they have internal needs as a data product. I also work on, kind of incubation programs where, how can we potentially get creative with early stage companies through, credit programs, through, potentially like, investments as well, to get companies to build on Databricks. And I also partner really closely with our venture leader, Andrew Ferguson. He runs Databricks Ventures. We have a very small venture arm where essentially we invest in ecosystem partners. So really helping him with kind of scale programs to get the word out that we actually have a VC arm and that we are investing in the ecosystem. So I have one of the most fun jobs at Databricks. I think I get to work with kind of these super exciting early stage companies, get to see like a lot of really innovative use cases, innovative companies of companies that are kind of the next enterprises of the world that are building their future businesses on Databricks.
What would you say is the purpose of the Built On program, and more specifically, what is it and what is it not?
So we as a company have the great fortune of working with companies of all sizes that are building and developing their product on Databricks. At the biggest enterprise customers, like Adobe, we support the Adobe Experience Platform. That's one of our larger kind of built on use cases. But we work with that, and we work with five-person startups that are building and developing their product on Databricks as well. As a company, fundamentally, we want to be able to support any type of company that is building product on us, whether it be startup all the way up to Fortune 100 enterprise accounts. And when we think about Built On, there's a few different angles to it. Of course, like in our go-to-market team, we work really closely with Built On partners, really aligning around how do we jointly go to market together? How can we unlock marketing benefit? How can we potentially act as a channel for companies that are, doing their product development on Databricks? For startups, it's a little bit of a different equation. In many cases, these are, very early companies that need a kind of different set of skills, need a different set of handholding as they're beginning their work with us. And so in many cases, it's up to us to kind of get creative around, what are kind of the benefits that we could help unlock for these companies, be it, Databricks product credit, be it kind of the availability of services, be it, us ourselves, maybe potentially being an angel investor in some of these companies. So these are all things like where I've been in my role now for about 6 months. I've been at Databricks a long time. My first 5 years here, I led our go-to-market for communications and media. So this is a new world for me, and we're kind of early in figuring out, what are kind of those things that startups need? What are the benefits that we should unlock for them? And particularly when it comes to companies building on us, what are kind of the right, what's the right altitude for us to fly as we're kind of working with these companies and they're kind of, again, developing and building their product on us.
What would you say is overall the biggest challenge? Like, 'cause I assume you have a lot of people applying to be part of the program. What would you say is the biggest challenge with enabling all these different companies that are coming to you?
I think it's in many cases, we having been here for a long time now, we have an embarrassment of good fortune as a company where, we are now a destination for many organizations as they're looking to either, build on us, partner with us, or engage us directly as a customer. I think in many cases, when in working with startups, like the biggest challenge and the biggest piece of advice I often have is a lot of times, startups are looking for easy ways to scale. And of course, like in many of them are either early or pre-revenue. They're looking for like, the silver bullet that can kind of accelerate their go to market. And they come to companies like Databricks who, by the way, we're all too happy. And we have an amazing ecosystem of partners that are looking to work with us. In many cases, like I talk to a lot of founders that are just like, hey, I've got a product, like if you build it, they will come. And that's not always the case. In many cases, I think like the big unlock for a lot of our startup partners, whether they're built on or whether, they're kind of using us to develop, or kind of use us for internal, data or AI use cases. Oftentimes, like on the partner side, my counsel is always, really be very, very, very focused on, finding early wins, finding early joint references. And, if you want to unlock us as a channel, how can you make it super easy to create a glide path for, Databricks account teams and others to be able to carry your message and kind of carry your product alongside, Databricks as a product. So, a lot of times, I kind of work with startup founders and kind of coaching them, what's the best way to work with Databricks? And a lot of times it's like there's a lot of legwork that goes into actually making it successful. It's not just about the product, the integration, absolutely critical, getting that right. And as a company, we focus a lot on making that right, making sure that, the integration is kind of up to snuff and, that we actually have a architecture that's beneficial, most importantly for our end customer. But, once that's done, and kind of the rubber hits the road, the next most important part is like, great, inevitably when you're pitching something to a new customer, the first question they're going to ask is, this sounds amazing. Where have you done it before? So like, I think in many cases, like getting traction for the startups that we work with often comes down to building out those joint references of customers that are kind of, leveraging their products on Databricks and seeing how best we can use those references to kind of help accelerate their path in their journey as a business as well.
For companies that are applying for the program, what is roughly the acceptance percentage? And what can they do to really stand out and be able to benefit from the program?
So for the startup program, we currently give about $21,000 in credits to venture-backed companies that are beginning their journey and their usage of Databricks. For the startup program, essentially, we have a pretty wide acceptance. I can't give you the like total number of acceptance, but I can say it's absolutely a few hundred, in the program that we've had since we had for the last year and a half. The big thing that we look for is like, number one, like we want to see that you have VC funding. For us, like that just kind of gives us the stamp of approval that, it's a investable company. It's something that, they have capital and there's kind of a long-term validation and a path to growth. The other thing we also like to see is like, is there intent to kind of build on, partner with, leverage Databricks as well? Many kind of, SaaS companies, have similar startup programs where, they'll provide credits. And I think a lot of VCs train their founders like, hey, go to every customer or partner that you think you're going to work with and see if they have credits that are available. But many of those companies don't really have intent to actually go build something. So we kind of have it structured so that like we want to give the credits out. But we also want to like make sure that, you have use cases for Databricks, like you have intent to work with us. You have Databricks resources that are getting trained, making training available. We want to make sure if we're giving, credits out that, it's actually, not only going to be a good kind of, investment for Databricks, but also that we're setting that customer up for success and they have the help that they need to be super successful on our platform. So, not only are the credits super important, but kind of that hands-on support that our startup account teams give, whether it is kind of, architectural coaching, whether it's, kind of giving best practices, whether it's making training available. That's a super critical element to, the startups that we work with as they're getting going on their journey with Databricks.
And correct me if I'm wrong, when you're talking investable companies, we're talking about do you work with companies that have gone through seed round and Series A, correct?
Well, in many cases, we'll give credits to, pre-seed, seed. Again, like we want to make sure that, like the company has working capital. We want to make sure that, it's more than, a kind of, like an experiment and like it is a real kind of entity that has intent to work with us. So the bar is not, I wouldn't say like the bar is super high. If you have pre-seed, like in many cases, we actually do a lot of work with Y Combinator, companies that are kind of coming in through accelerators, be it Y Combinator or there's a number of, plug and play. There's a number of accelerator programs that are out there that, kind of write angel checks. And in many cases, like that's enough for us to kind of see that, that there's been due diligence. There's enough of a kind of there for the company to get funding. And it's enough for us to, kind of make a bet and give those companies credits as they're to kind of offset and mitigate their risk as they're looking to work with us more deeply.
If someone was considering which platform to build on and partner with, so Databricks versus XYZ, why should an organization choose or want to build on Databricks versus some of the alternatives that I think we all know?
I've talked a lot about kind of credit and kind of the benefit, the financial incentive that we can give to customers. But I think that's important. But I think more important, it's about really future proofing. Like where is the puck going? And I don't have to tell like anyone that like we are in this amazing time where AI is really at the core of everything that every company is thinking about. AI is now a board level initiative at most of not only the largest companies in the world, but, I get, again, the great fortune to work with, hundreds of startups that we get to see. And AI is going to be the future of, what these kind of startups are developing, what they're building. And, you really, I think as a company, like when you think about the three bets that we made very early on as a company, like AI at the core of everything that we do, open source, as well as kind of being, cloud only. Those were risky bets when we started, as a company in 2013. Ends up, those were really good bets. And in the current time that we find ourselves, and particularly at this time where, we're 2 years into this Gen AI hype, cycle where, ChatGPT was kind of like the meteor that hit Earth and everyone was like, oh my goodness, I need to figure out this Gen AI thing. I think it's that much more important that, companies be really considered about, are you working with a partner that is ahead of the curve, that is future proofed, that is, really shipping products so that you can, stay ahead of these advancements as they come on. And, one thing that we actually just ran, that was super exciting, for startups is, we recently we're in the process actually of closing out what we called our generative AI startup challenge. We did this in coordination with AWS. We had over $1 million in Databricks product credit, venture funding, and other goodies that we're going to be handing out to the best Gen AI applications that are built on top of Databricks. We actually just had the judging last week. We've narrowed down to the final 4, which we'll be announcing next week. We're super excited. But like it's just incredible. Like when you look at how fast some of these companies that we work with are able to move simply by making the right choice on platform. It's absolutely critical. And I think like our product, I can build all of the great programs in the world. But really the product differentiates itself. And I think like when you look at the success that our customers are having, it's really baked into, why our kind of, growth and why our kind of momentum as a company is, continuing to accelerate, particularly, in the startup segment.
So I've had at least 2 people that have come to me wanting to know more about partnering with Databricks and building on the Databricks ecosystem and to start a program and whatnot. But one of the conflicts that they sometimes see is, well, Databricks builds a lot of stuff in-house. And then they're concerned, oh, is Databricks going to copy what I'm doing? Okay. So with that stated, how does Databricks balance the conflict between the built in-house capabilities and those of partners, such as, those in the built-on program?
Our ecosystem is incredibly important. And frankly, having been here for 5.5 years, it's been really incredible to watch the progress that we've had in terms of building and scaling our ecosystem. Absolutely important, absolutely critical. I think our kind of mode of operation has always been, doing right by customers. And in many cases, like even for capability that we, may have introduced that, may have conflicted with another partner, we still partner with those companies because at the end of the day, like we want what's best for the end customer. So I would never, I would never dissuade, like even if it's, functionality or features that, might be similar to something that, Databricks already has in market. Customers have a funny way of telling you, what they like and what they don't like. And in many cases, we've had long-term partnerships with companies that, you might say that we, co-optate. But I think it's like at the end of the day, it's like, good for customers in terms of giving customer choice. It's good for us because it makes us better. And I think hopefully it's good for the partners as well, because like certainly we're never looking to ice a partner out in any way, shape or form. And I've been at this for a long time, prior to my startup role, and kind of running our go-to-market for comms and media. I work with a ton of partners. And kind of, onboarding them, kind of working with them as they're, building and developing their business. And, this kind of comes up a lot, but I think this kind of, the ecosystem approach, like makes us all better, makes our product better, makes the partner better. And ultimately, like the most important thing is it delivers the best product and the best customer choice as well.
So along those lines, the other question is, I've also had at least two people basically have wanted to build companies almost with the end goal that in hope that Databricks will acquire them. I'm curious as to your thoughts on that, really setting realistic expectations for companies that perhaps set themselves up to be like, hey, we're going to build on Databricks because we want Databricks to acquire us. What would you say to those individuals?
I would probably encourage them to focus on like what is best for the customer at the end of the day. Like companies succeed or fail based on like their success in penetrating markets and getting customers to adopt the product. I think like if your MO is like, I'm going to build something just to get acquired, like that, my candid assessment would probably be that's probably like the wrong move. For no other reason than like you're focused on like an end outcome of, something that may not, be in the realm of happening, versus like what is actually the best thing and kind of what are the actual problems that we're solving for an end customer. So like, we, again, like as a company, like we have an embarrassment of good fortune. Like I got here 5.5 years ago. Like had you told me that, Databricks would be at the size and scale that, we are now when I got here in 2019, like I would have been like, no way. Like it's just been incredible. But again, like that's because we focused on the customer. So like I always tell partners, it's like the same thing. Like don't focus on being acquired by us or someone else. Like you're focusing on the wrong thing. Like when you focus on building great product that customers adopt, like then you'll get the outcomes that you may desire, not like leading with that as the outcome that you're desiring right out of the gate.
So I'm curious, Steve, what are some of the things that you have seen as part of the Gen AI competition that's going on right now?
So great question, super timely. The Generative AI Startup Challenge has been running this fall, and it's our first time doing like a competition of this size. We had over $1 million in prizes, credits, other goodies that we're giving away. Of course, we had a lot of interest, but like the most amazing part is when you kind of see the breadth and depth of the companies that are building Gen AI on Databricks. It's pretty amazing. From kind of like next generation, like RPA companies to, companies that are kind of leveraging our platform for, kind of drug discovery, to, kind of, process automation tools to, robotics companies. It's pretty amazing, like, when you kind of take a step back and actually look at, what people are doing on the platform. And this competition for me was, we really kind of built this as a vehicle to, not only, tell the world that we have a startup program, we have a venture, investment fund, and, we are kind of a platform where customers are kind of building out these use cases. But the other really fascinating part for me has just been, again, like, really just not only how many companies are kind of, building these Gen AI use cases on us, but just the variety of use cases as well. And also the variety of different ways from a technical perspective that customers are using the platform. It's not just about leveraging Mosaic, but, we see a lot of customers that are using Mosaic and then are using, maybe using Databricks SQL, maybe using us for, more classic AI. And then we have customers that might be using Mosaic and they might be using a lot of the kind of Databricks, open source tools as well. So it's just been really illuminating to not only see the different types, but also the different ways that customers are using the underlying platform. Been pretty neat to kind of been riding shotgun on this for the last couple months.
Within the context of the Gen AI competition, how do you distinguish or differentiate between AI companies that have a legitimate product and really AI companies that, quite frankly, are pretty fluff in nature or in terms of the true meat of their solution?
I think for us, and this kind of comes back to a big qualification criteria for our startup program is having some level of VC funding. We kind of look at that again as kind of that stamp of, someone is kind of vetted, someone's looked at this, there's a real business behind it, it's an investable business. So in many cases, we kind of take our cue from, has the investment community, put money into these companies? And then, does it make sense for us, to also kind of work with these companies that as their, onboarding use cases, giving them credits, giving them hands-on support as well. So we kind of view that, but we also recognize, there's a lot of companies that might be, angel funded or bootstrapped or, might be coming in from, kind of other, financial arrangements. And we have a lot of flexibility as well. If companies have intent to work with us, if we kind of, kick the tires and see there's a real business there and it's more than, just an idea, we are always more than happy to kind of support these startups, give them credits, give them hands-on support, as they're kind of working through their product journey.
So I have this startup called Pilake.com. What are the chances of it making it through the startup built on program?
If you're involved, then they're in.
Think.
Well, I mean, you see and you've cultivated a big fan base, within the data community, and get to work with a lot of, startups and a lot of founders. What do you tell me where I'm wrong. What do you think are kind of a key success criteria for startups that are looking to work with Databricks?
I would say that customer obsession is one. Really being focused on what is beneficial to the customer. Second, I would say the willingness to take critical feedback. I've gotten the opportunity to informally chat with a few different companies. And quite frankly, the ones that don't listen to my feedback in terms of they are defensive whenever they're listening to my feedback, those are the ones that, generally speaking, 1 year later, they don't exist. Not because my feedback is great, but because their attitude towards that criticism of their solution is no, what we've built is awesome. You cannot speak negatively about it. On the flip side, that's one of the things that I think makes Databricks such a good company, because I can be critical with my feedback, and as long as I'm not doing it in a slanderous way or trying to, as long as I'm giving it with a good conscience, trying to really provide valuable insight, even when it's critical, Databricks tends to take it in the right way. So I think that's an observable trait of a bigger company that I think startups can have. The third one is individuals that have the right balance between technical skills and business skills. I've recently chatted with a individual from a startup, great product, but one of the things that I called out to this individual was, you've built a product that you, with your deep level of expertise, would love to use yourself. Now, my challenge to you is, take that deep expertise that you clearly display in your application with all the little knobs and little pieces. Now, dumb it down or simplify it in a way that individuals that are not experts in what you're doing will be able to understand and actually relate to and understand like the why something is relevant to them. If anyone can understand everything you have here, they're not going to be using your product. They're just going to build it themselves because they would really have to be subject matter experts to understand all this level. But for individuals that are building, leverage your deep expertise and then make it actionable and simple for those business decision makers. And like I tell people is when you're selling solutions, when you're building companies and selling solutions, you're going to be speaking to both your end users that really are perhaps more technical within the realm of what I do. But you're also going to have to be speaking and creating a message for the CFOs that are going to approve those bills and really help you pay the bills yourself. So those are some of the things that I usually tell people.
Sage advice.